Hello, welcome to Cow Daily, everybody. Stupidly, I forgot to put my headphones in, but it's one of them. You set up a new studio again, and you're here. You're back. And I'll just move things closer. If you could let us know if this is like sounding all right, looking all right. I've obviously been running tests on the internet and all that stuff every time, but we're here. We're back. Obviously, we're going to talk Israel Palestine today. We'll have it all sorted in the next 30 minutes. Got Netanyahu and Hamas on speed dial waiting for the gold, so just tune in. It'll be all good. We'll have it fixed. It's not a problem. Who's in the comments? Slaz is about. Sounds good. Cheers, pal. Nice one. I was just getting like little alerts on it, so thanks for letting us know, my friend. What I shall do as well, Slaz has reminded us by his presence that we'll run some music while the stream catches up, because he was telling us that there was a big lag the other day. So the old favourites here. Listen. See people are starting to join. Nice to see us. Israel Palestine today. Getting it all sorted. Sorting it out. Ross Thompson, sounds sexy. I think that's just like an overhang from this summer's COVID infection, to be honest, my friend. Hope you're keeping well. But no, I'm really sounding sexy. If you'd like to support our work, go to patreon.com/cowdaily. That is patreon.com/cowdaily. Link in the description of this podcast if you want to make one-off donation to our work for PayPal. Thank you, please. Nice one. Right, we'll get started, shall we? No time to waste. Israel. But before we do, shouts to the people of Canada. We've never charted in Canada before. According to that, we're in the top 40 in Canada, but fell 13 places, and I hadn't noticed. So anyway, thank you to all Canadian people for listening and watching as well, I suppose. Let us know who you are and where you are. That would be great. Also, if you could like this video, react to this video, that would be really appreciated. And just let people know that we're about and we're doing it and all that, and help it grow and all that good stuff that you have to ask. But please like the video. Ah, man, I just got a vape straight in the eye there. This thing's dangerous, man. I need to change it. Which obviously, like, is what you see on BBC Nick Robinson and all them people, like, when they're talking about things, because that's what we're like. Just before we do, right, in the latest in, like, Boomer's shit crack, literally, right, Bob Collier here says, probably best to get a life first. You would think that was on some kind of, like, really contentious thing. I was literally just asking for recommendations on a water bottle. Probably best to get a life first, says Bob. So I had to get on his profile, like, not against people with cats, but like somebody who has that there. How are you, Bob, man? Get your own life, pal. Right, anyway, on Thursday at noon, we have Andrew Feinstein, who has written the books, The Shadow World Inside the Global Arms Trade, and also After the Party, as he was elected official of the African National Congress in South Africa, the ANC. We'll also be asking him a bit about Israel Palestine. He's got a lot to say there as well, so really looking forward to that. Main reason he's coming on, he's talking about a new network that's been set up on the left in the UK. So I'm keen to find out about that too, and I'm sure you are as well. Shouts to Andrew for agreeing to come on, and Laura from Socialist Think Tank for lining that up for us. Cheers, mate. Yes. So anyway, I found the flyer for the rave that was that Hamas went to as well, shall we say. And there's one of the things I wanted to point out, right? Obviously, we've come from the rave scene. That's where Milk the Cow started. So this is why it's got a link to it. Not because somebody tried to claim that we care more about hot raver girls than we do Palestinians. I want to just say this from the jump, right? And it makes us cringe to have to say it. Yet, talking to a lad who did 500 miles in 25 days for medical aid for Palestinians. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I didn't just like fall out the sky. The reason I have an issue with young people being kidnapped and murdered from a rave or anywhere for that matter is they're not a legitimate military target. Simple as that. Like, there's no other, like, sort of, as far as I know, unconscious biases that or anything like that. If there was, I'm not really sure I would have been doing, like, something that basically broke my body, um, for people that I don't see as having the same, like, right to human life, i.e. the Palestinians. Definitely wouldn't be doing medical aid for them. That wouldn't be happening, would it? Now, I get it and I understand this is mad emotive for us all, some more than most as well, for family reasons, or even religious reasons or whatever, and that's to be respected. But I tell you what, like, I'm definitely not letting people like try and make me out to be something I'm not, just because I think it's absolutely shocking and disgusting and abhorrent that you would storm a rave and start just murdering people and then kidnapping people and dragging them off. I get there's like all manner of horrendous stuff being done by Israel, and trust me, we'll be covering it in this. But nah, we're not the same. We're not the same. If you can even be laissez-faire about the fact that that place got, but that the rave got done, we're not the same. I'm in this on the side of humans. That includes Israelis, innocent people. You can give it this whole like IDF, like they have to go and do military service. But there's the thing, they're conscripted, they have to. There's plenty Israelis who refuse and take the jail as a result of it. Like to like say all Israeli people are a monolith and all think the same is factually inaccurate. But you're straying into the realms of anti-Semitism there. Certainly prejudice. Because I don't see like any um very many other, right, actually that's absolute bullshit. This is the problem with discourse these days. I wanted to be all like, oh, I don't see any others, but it's not binary. Literally everybody's trying to slander everybody else. That's the quality of discourse now. So I'm absolutely full of it there. That's not true. Catch yourself while it's happening. The truth's important. Everybody's trying to do propagandize everybody else. And then one of the things I did want to point out about this rave flyer, right? It's like an international trance festival. Like trance is massive in Israel, Psy trance specifically. But this is just a wider trance festival. There's a couple of British artists on. One's Union Jack. You might remember Rise and High Records, Casper Pound's label. Biggest tune, Full Moons and a Trout. It's been remixed to death over the years. Like you probably know it. Also, Man with No Name, who used to be on Oakenfold's label, Perfecto Fluoro. Sugar Rush, belter track, actually. None of these people should be playing in Israel, in my opinion. Amnesty International called Israel an apartheid state. So I feel this exactly the same way about these artists playing there as I would artists playing in South Africa during apartheid. If you've got international NGOs like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International calling a state, i.e. Israel, an apartheid state, I don't care what your Rachel Reeves and your James Cleverleys and all these other people have to say. I'll believe Amnesty International. That's how I'm going to believe. So we'll have to get the context right. And one of the things I want to point out is we've got some guests who are better placed than me to talk about the history. I'm going to touch on the history of the recent history of the conflict, but we'll get a deeper dive from guests that are coming up. So just bear that in mind. We're not trying to assume knowledge, but we're going to plug that gap. We just couldn't get it the dates the right way around, so I'm doing this show today. Talking about propaganda, this is from BBC News at BBC World. More than 500 people have crossed in red died in Gaza after Israel launched massive retaliatory airstrikes, according to Gaza's health ministry. Check the change in language. More than 700 people have been killed in Israel since Hamas launched its attacks on Saturday. So clearly, choice of language is important, especially when things are getting propagandized heavily, as we've already covered that they are. And this isn't the first time. And we'll be talking about that much more with guests in the future this week, actually, because it's not that subtle. But I think possibly if you're not paying attention, it is subtle. Another thing, this from Yasmin Mohammed. Too many people on this stupid app, that meaning Twitter, can't tell the difference between innocent Palestinian people and terrorists like Hamas. Stop conflating the two. You're not helping. I have family in Gaza, says Yasmin. They hate Hamas. They are not torturing women and parading their dead bodies around. The people doing that are not innocent Palestinians. They are evil and monstrous terrorists. This should not be difficult. Now, that's that person's opinion. One that I personally largely share. The top and bottom of it is this, right? I understand, we could, for me, like, state terrorism is still terrorism. It's just better resourced. And I'll get that clear from the absolute super jump. But at the same time, absolutely no reality that I would ever exist in would make me think, oh, well, just kidnapping them people from the rave and then shooting them and murdering them and all of that. That's perfectly fine. It's not fine, man. Or we can justify that. There's no justification for that. Just like there's no justification for what came after that. I was watching live, war crimes live on Al Jazeera yesterday. Israel bombing the Gaza Strip. And like some of the language coming out of Israel at the minute, we're going to cover in a bit, is absolutely and utterly fucking abhorrent. Shocking. So anyway, this is it. Got a couple of things from Philip Proudfoot, who's been smashing it out of the park. He was one of the founders of the Northern Independence Party. I believe he's a professor or lecturer of Middle East Studies. He's at Philip Proudfoot on Twitter, by the way. So he's saying the ongoing suggestion that every single person protesting in Britain for Palestine are doing so because they're Hamas supporters is beyond dangerous. And what's worse, those making those claims know exactly what they're doing. One of them being the editor of the Jewish Chronicle, unsurprisingly, because if you want to look at like adjudications against them by IPSO, the regulator, they're one of the most sanctioned titles out there. But propaganda is one. Look, we've all seen how the Jewish Chronicle went on. Let's not piss about during the Corbyn era. Absolute fucking jokes, that lot. Loki at Loki Online says Israeli politician Tali Gottlieb from Netanyahu's party, that's Likud, just called for the use of a nuclear bomb on Gaza. This is a sickness. Translate the tweet for you here. Jericho missile, strategic alert before considering the introduction of forces, doomsday weapon. This is my opinion. May God preserve all our strength. She's not the sharpest tool in the box, because she lives right next to Gaza. Do you know what happens? Your smart fence isn't going to stop nuclear fallout, you utter mug. And also, what the fuck is that? Anybody calling for nuclear weapons right now needs to get in the fucking ultra bin, by the way, unsurprisingly. Anyway, let's crack straight in with this video as well. What we've got on the screen is, let me just fly through for you. What we've got on the screen is the Palestinian ambassador to a BBC News presenter. And what he's saying here is, you bring me here whenever Israelis are killed. Did you bring me here when many Palestinians were killed, over 200 in the last few months?
And the mainstream media for 75 years. You bring us here whenever there are Israelis who are killed. Did you bring me here when many Palestinians in the West Bank, more than 200 over the last few months? Do you invite me when there is such Israeli provocations in Jerusalem and elsewhere? Because what Israelis have seen, which we started by saying tragic, the last 48 hours, the Palestinians see every day for the last 50 years. You know the situation in Gaza, you've just described it. This is the biggest open-air prison.
Absolutely spot on what he's saying. And it ties obviously back into that slide, which I've showed you where it's been circled in red, the different uses of language. Would the BBC invite him there before now? Clearly not, because he's obviously referencing the fact that they haven't. And then, the line of questioning between this guy and Israeli officials, it's just like night and day quite often with the BBC. Let's have it like super right, shall we? Another example of it is here, and this is on Newsnight. Kirsty Walk get this, man. This is madness.
Now, of course, there's more than 800.
There it is. I think I need to put it in the screen. I do. Get in there. Get in there, ye. Right, lots of videos today. Here we go. Bring this one back to the start. Apologies for the delay.
Now, of course, there's more than 800 dead in Gaza, including members of your own extended family. What do you know what happened to them?
They were just sitting at their home and they were simply bombarded. Their entire building was brought down. My cousin, Aya, her 2 children, her husband, her mother-in-law, and 2 other relatives died immediately, were killed instantly. And 2 of her youngest children, a twin, 2 years old, are now in intensive care. This is truly heartbreaking. And the issue here, Kirsty, is that they have no bunkers, they have no Iron Dome, they have nowhere to go. They are simply sitting ducks for the Israeli war machine.
I'm sorry for your own personal loss. I mean, can I just be clear, though? You cannot condone the killing of civilians in Israel, can you? Nor the kidnapped families.
No, we don't condone. And we are very clear, Kirsty. We reject any targeting or harming.
So the reason I play that is, point is, right, he's just talking about losing 6 members of his extended family in this like war crime that Israel's befallen on Gaza, quite literally, with the utter bombing campaign that's been happening. If you want to say it, like, Al Jazeera is where you want to say it. And what was the question? Oh, but do you condemn Hamas? I mean, is that not sociopathic? Because at the same time, right, if like, go and look at the way Israeli officials are questioned most of the time. I don't even need to tell you. It's in the public domain. You can see it for yourself. It's completely not the same. Right, let's see what's happening in the comments. Linda's saying, hello, nice to see you, mate. Excellent interview. Says the Palestinian ambassador went to town on the BBC News presenter. Absolutely. Glasgow saying, hello, watch Low Key's vid on Double Down News the other day. Good watch, always good. David Gaddis of the Heed Army podcast. I hope you win at the National Football Content Awards at Anfield. Big up yourselves. David Gaddis is saying the propaganda machine is trying to get people on side with a moral high ground where sadly there's not much for either side. If only the best we can hope for in this situation calms down soon and the cannon fodder and bystanders can live. Simple as that. We all deserve to live. Wise words, mate. Definitely. I'm on the side of humans, and it sounds like you are too. This type of stuff, right, is complicated, but I think if we're through dialogue, we can try to make it simpler. The problem is propaganda, as you quite rightly point out, and one of the skills of the modern era is trying to work out when we're being propagandized on. So, nice one. David Livingston, hello, mate. Well done by pointing out the BBC. Indeed. And he's also saying monolithic thinking is the issue. I agree. Definitely, we need to get past, like, we say it all the time about anything, like team sports, supporting things like it's a football team, and then just that leads to like blind, just blind support, and that's going to lead down to a really bad place. We're killed, man. Like, I think this is the thing that people think, living on an island, it's insulated from all of that. These tentacles go back years. We'll talk about the Balfour Declaration and all of that when we have our guests on. If you aren't aware of the longer history of this, definitely want to tune into that. Jez Hunt's in the house. The revolution will not be televised, but the wars always are. Tell us about it, mate. Tell me about it. Right. Shazbot's in. Nice to see you, pal. It's breaking my heart. Tell us about it, man. It really is. Horrible. Jez situation is heartbreaking as well. It really is. It's just like kick the stuffing out of us, you know. I'm sure I'm hearing that user feeling exactly the same way. Absolutely ultra sucks. Right, what have we got here? Another one from Philip Proudfoot. At Philip Proudfoot. The EU's cancelled aid funding for Palestine. One of the EU's recent flagship projects was 30 million euros to supply clean drinking water in Gaza. Palestinian children dying in agony from cholera are not Hamas. But at this point needs to be made is shocking beyond words. Full agreement. Then you've got ghouls like this Jeremy Breyer, KC, at Jeremy Breyer, saying breaking, EU immediately suspending all aid worth euros 691 million to Palestinians and reviewing entire aid portfolio. Get this. This is what happens when you abduct children and the elderly and massacre teenagers. This is exactly what I'm talking about. These bad faith far right or right wing people. Sometimes as well, it's not even that. It's these like agrocentrists or the ones that claim to be in the middle, still to the right, aren't you? And they're all just like leeching around this, like saying that type of shit. Let's call it what it is, right? Let's get that back up on the fucking screen. This is what happens when you abduct children and the elderly and massacre teenagers. Who exactly are you talking about? Like, I don't want to get all chicken and the egg about this, right? But none of this happened in a fucking vacuum, did it? And for somebody who's like King's Counsel, clearly an intelligent man, I'm led to, I would strongly suspect that he knows he's propagandizing. If not, you're lost, pal. Which children and massacred teenagers that we're talking about here? Clearly, you're referencing the ones at the rave. That didn't happen, and nothing happened before, you mug. Jesus Christ. So anyway, good news. There's some decent countries in the world. This is at Robert Brandt on Twitter. The EU's plan to suspend all financial aid to the Palestinian Authority has been blocked by 4 EU states. That's Ireland, Spain, Denmark, and Luxembourg. Thanks to these countries, Palestinian children will have something to eat. Palestinians should look at this map and never forget it. On the screen for audio people, there's a map of Europe with those quality countries marked off as being sound. And this is what happens when we elect decent people. We can still have these things happen. And also when people have, when a population is quite switched on. So that's brilliant. And the likes of this KC, Jeremy Breyer, like, this is what we just need to say to people. Stop talking about it in the abstract. Like, if you pull that funding, then there's going to be no clean drinking water for children in Gaza who, like, the average age in Gaza, right, is 18 years old. Compare that to most other countries in the world. Now, I'll leave you to, like, have a really good think about why that is, Jeremy, because I know you listen. Right, well, what else? Just a bit more background here, and this is like recent history, and it's important. No analysis of the situation now is complete until we look at the recent history. And of course, other shows we're doing this week where we'll touch on the longer history of Palestine. So anyway, at Zachary Foster, he's a scholar of Palestine from Princeton University. In 2010, there was a non-violent attempt to break the siege on Gaza. The Turkish human rights organization sent a ship carrying aid to break the Israeli-Egyptian blockade on Gaza. In response, Israel murdered 11 Turkish citizens on board the ship carrying humanitarian aid. And Zachary goes on. In March 2018, tens of thousands of Gazans marched to the fence, unarmed, demanding the right of return. Israel killed 223 Palestinians, and Israeli snipers left 6,106 Palestinians with life-changing wounds. Not a single Israeli experienced any major physical harm. One thing I'd like to point out about that, they were aiming for the ankles. Last one from Zachary. Many other attempts have been made to break the siege on Gaza through non-violence. Israel nearly always responds with deadly and disproportionate violence. If you're shocked at the horror and gruesome violence that Hamas has inflicted on Israel, you've been asleep for 16 years. And that's the thing. Most people are asleep. I mean, look at like other things that actually are happening like in people's lives. Remember that avoid it like the plague thing? Well, that's not happening, is it? We need to change language. But listen, people getting shocked and stunned about all of this that's happening this weekend. Please educate yourself on what the hell has been going on. Just tune in later in the week. We'll have something on for you there. This clip I wanted to show is from the Empire Files, which is Abby Martin. She's a really good journalist, actually. Some of you may have heard of her. And what this clip is Israeli soldiers bragging about sniping children. So here we go. If you're on the audio, you'll probably need to come and read the subtitle.
Children are an internationally protected group under Article 77 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which states that they're the object of special respect and shall be protected against any form of assault.
לא יכול לראות בגלל טלטלית. בגלל טלטלית כפרה. מימוני, בוא לפה, בוא לפה, בוא לפה, בוא לפה. יש שם ילד קטן. לא. איך הוא מתכופף תמיד בדיוק שנוקטים? לוקח לך את הוורוד. לא ורוד, אני על הכחול אני. וואי, זה סרטון! יש! בן של זונה.
Right, that's enough of that. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, anybody would agree that, wouldn't it? Again, these things do not happen in a vacuum. Not one bit of it. And don't let anybody tell you any different. So, this here is Benjamin Netanyahu on his official Twitter account. And translating the post, well, it won't let us do it for some reason. But anyway, look at this. He's posting this. And what he's posting for audio people is buildings being bombed and collapsed in the Gaza Strip. And he's giving it the whole, we're going to win. It's just like a whole B-roll of buildings being bombed. Buildings which have people in. And we're talking about yesterday that the Palestinians, they went to... So I think it was 67,000 Palestinians fled to schools which were designated by the United Nations, and Israel bombed one of them. They also bombed an eye hospital. Maybe we're seeing some of the footage right here in front of her. Who knows? Absolute monsters, man. Like Hamas, monsters. Whoever is ordering this, also monsters. One of the high-ranking generals in the Israeli army was quoted as saying that if you act like animals, we're going to treat you like animals, and calling Palestinians human animals. Utterly disgusting. And once again, this whole like treating people as a monolith thing. We hear a lot about like sort of anti-Semitism and not treating all Jews as a monolith or Israeli citizens, because you can have secular Israeli citizens too, because they're not a fucking monolith. And neither are the Palestinians, and certainly not Palestinian children who are getting murdered yesterday. That's not all right, is it? Murdering children's bad. Why we're saying this in 2023? Mental. But here we are. This is the life now. This is what people think. This is from Nathan J. Robinson. He says the editorial board of Haaretz, Israel's lead newspaper, says Netanyahu himself is squarely responsible for the disaster, having ignored the potential consequences of escalating aggression towards Palestinians. The disaster that befell Israel on the holiday of Simchat Torah is the clear responsibility of one person, Benjamin Netanyahu. The Prime Minister, who's prided himself on his vast political experience and irreplaceable wisdom in security matters, completely failed to identify the dangers he was consciously leading Israel into when establishing a government of annexation and dispossession, when appointing Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir to key positions while embracing a foreign policy that openly ignored the existence and rights of Palestinians. The people that are referenced in Haaretz there are far-right and who were appointed by Netanyahu to gain power again and form a coalition. That has obviously led to this, and the oldest newspaper in Israel are saying exactly that. Pretty grim, isn't it? Not the best. Something I want to point out here, Rachel Reeves, remember her? Rachel Reeves continuing on the can't say anything bad possibly about Israel thing at all. Wonder why? Arguing against international law by stating that Gaza is not occupied by Israel.
Well, no, there are some here. There are certainly people outside this conference, at the conference down the road, so-called World Transform Conference of the Left, who will say, look, we all know the real problem here. The real cause, they say, is the occupation of what they call Palestine.
Well, Gaza is not occupied by Israel.
the real cause of what is happening now is a terrorist attack. And if Britain or any...
will know there are...
So there we go. International law clearly states that Gaza is occupied by Israel, right? So we've got somebody who's the shadow chancellor lying. If she's not lying there, right? She's not across her brief as a politician. So what the hell's going on here? Well, I think we all know, don't we? It's like they're in a position now where they can't say shit. I don't give a fuck what people have got to say now. This is absolutely abhorrent and beyond a joke, this. Like, where's the opposition? Where? Maybe here, right? And let's continue our loving with the Green Party. Zach Polanski, at Zach Polanski on Twitter, the deputy leader of the Greens, said this in response to Rachel Reeves. This is deeply misleading and irresponsible by the Labour Party. One conflict often has many complex factors. One very basic fact, though, is Israel has illegally occupied Gaza. Denying that this is an attempt in aligning our country with a far-right government and its crimes. Thank you, Zach. Finally, some true adults in the room. That would be the Green Party. Listen, the Green Party aren't perfect. I'm not really down with the whole NATO thing that they've changed. But there's this, to my mind, is a mainstream politician speaking the truth. And that's like hen's teeth these days. So one thing I heard yesterday, the Greens have passed something at a conference where they're going to stand somebody in every constituency and they're going to reject these tactical voting things and actually go for it. That's worth supporting. You know what else is? Us. Go to the P to the A to the T, run.com/cow daily. That's patreon.com/cow daily. Also, if you want to make a one-off contribution to our work, there's a link in the description of this podcast for the PayPal. Thank you, my friends. Let us have a look and see what your comments are. Right. Jez is saying, over 90% of the water in Gaza is polluted and toxic. That's just mad, isn't it? Jono, nice to see you, pal. Hope you're doing well. Careful, tentacles anti-Semitic these days. Oh, they can just fuck off. I'm clearly just... I'm clearly of good standing, but they can just bite my shite if they want to start chucking that our way. Fucking fuck off, man. Oh, Glasgow's saying the EU since backtracked on that after thankfully caving to the backlash. Oh, are you referring to the backtrack that we pointed out, or the backtracked on the backtrack? Because obviously I'm live now, so that would be helpful. That would be really cool. David's saying, does our search for a perfect leader stand at the beginning of such problems? Once we choose a side, we seem unable to say they're false and defend, even when it's obviously wrong. Both right and left suffer from this. Spot on. Definitely. We have to, for me, right? And I've gotten loads of bother and bumped up against this. Obviously, you've seen like when last year or started like going against the Labour Party and the amount of like absolute Labour dafties who just made it their mission to give a shit. Crazy. But also obviously fascists giving a shit. That's part of the course. But it's been deeply hurtful that the left would do that. So spot on that, David. Slice is saying, Palestinian diplomatic mission in Ireland, thanks. Ireland, Spain, Luxembourg, time off, blocking the proposed cessation of EU to Palestine. Brilliant. Thanks for the clarification, sir. Roger's in the house. Roger's coming on with his dad, who's a professor as well. We just sorted out this morning. That's one of the people I've been referring to, so it's nice to see you, brother. You can't talk about blame when looking at actions. The only way to look at blame is through power structures. Israel has all the power. Palestine does not. Therefore, the only side that has the power to stop deaths is Israel. Blame can only be landed at the feet of those who have the power to make change. It's simple. I mean, let's save that. Let's go back and forth on that, like when we see each other's faces and you can reply and all of that, because I slightly deviate from that. I think that takes away responsibility of the individual, and I think that's a dangerous thing to do. We all can make change, you know. I mean, for example, the Hamas action on that rave, that affected change. Whether it's good or bad remains to be seen, but it affected change. Right, let's scroll back through. Glasgow's saying SNP and the Greens are our opposition now mainly. I agree, my friend. That's what I feel. And come general election time, that I'll be suggesting people vote for any one of those. And hopefully we can get to a point where there's a hung parliament and we can get SNP and Green people in there. There's a real chance of getting at least 4 Greens elected. They're focusing on 4 constituencies, but there is absolutely nothing stopping people getting behind Greens in different areas and where you are. Like, get stuck in. Because at the same time, you know, the ballot box is just one tactic. Let's have it right. It's not perfect by any means, but it's what a lot of people can understand about how to affect change in politics. So I think it's important on that basis to get amongst that. Anyway, whistle-stop tour of the issues at the minute. As I said, I've left a bit out when we talked to Raj on his dad and Andrew Feinstein as well. We'll get some gold from them, I'm sure. People better placed than I am to talk about this. And enough, though. Bash lesson 101, dehumanize, says David. Absolutely spot on. That's what they do. And we should be careful. If we're going to slag off people who call Palestinians human animals and then do that on every Israeli, I'm not in. I'm out. Not doing that. That's absolute fucking nonsense, man. Like, you cannot say all people are a monolith, and there's plenty of Israelis campaigning for peace as well. So let's align with them, and then possibly the world might know peace. But this whole football match thing, and I understand we're getting really emotive about it, it's got to go in every level of society, because we're never going to find the truth, and we're certainly not going to find any form of peace if we just start saying all the Israelis or all the Palestinians. Let's respect each other as individuals with different thoughts and feelings. Anyway, all the best is. See you later on the week. Always a pleasure. Never a chore. Goodbye.